In today's episode of the Motorhome Matt podcast,
will tariffs push motorhome prices even higher?
We're back with another Alan Rogers campsite of the month.
And we answer your questions on chassis options, travelling to Ireland and hibernating flies.
Welcome to the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
Industry insights, expert advice for the world of motorhomes, caravans and campervans. And it's brought to you by thatleisureshop.com and sponsored by Ripe.
Now remember to please follow on your favourite podcast app, or if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe. Have you checked when your insurance is due? We've had loads of listeners tell us they've saved money with Ripe using our exclusive 15% discount. It's a no-brainer.
And the best part, it's really easy. Getting a quote takes just a few minutes and you can do it all online or speak to somebody here in the UK who actually knows about motorhomes.
Yep, no call centres abroad, just a helpful team in Manchester who can talk you through it. So whether it's a quick quote or you've got questions about your cover, they are spot on.
And if you're heading to Europe, Ripe offers cover for up to 90 days per trip or 180 days across the year. So you're sorted whether it's a long tour or just a few getaways.
Listeners keep telling us how easy the process is and how much they're saving. It's definitely worth a look.
So don't leave it too late. Call Ripe and quote Motorhome Matt, that's one word, Motorhome Matt, to get 15% off your premium, or just click the link in the description.
It's quick, easy and could save you money. Just click the link in the episode description. The discount is applied automatically. It's time for our Alan Rogers Campsite of the Month feature, and I'm delighted to be joined by Rob from Alan Rogers. So Rob, tell me, where are we this month?
So this month we're talking about Moulin de Pouliac, which is outside the village of Dordogne, which is in the Dordogne region.
So, right, I was going to say, yeah, this is a lovely wine region. So, southern France, in the Dordogne, exactly whereabouts is it?
So it's about 20 minutes from, if you know the Dordogne, you'll know where Sarlat is. Sarlat, for you Philistines. That's the heart of the Périgord Noir. Brilliant wine region. What's your favourite wine from that region?
Cabernet Franc.
Yeah, delicious. Yeah, lots of options though. There's reds, whites.
I was going to say, it's not just red wine. There's famous for white wine, Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon.
Yeah,
loads of wine to choose from.
Absolutely.
If you're a wine lover, this is a place to go. But loads of history here as well.
Well, lots of old history. So there's the region's synonymous with caves. So you've got about 20 minutes from the site, you've got Grotto de Dôme, which is an impressive show cave. Obviously, there's the world famous Le Sceau, with all the cave paintings.
Yes.
That's about an hour away. If you're not into caves, then Chateau, lots of those around in the region.
Yeah.
Castelnau is, I think it's a 12th century one. That's really close to the site. Impressive views over the Dordogne Valley and the river. Chateau de Molande, which is where Josephine Baker lived. You know, the World War II spy entertainer.
Yeah.
Obviously, being in the Dordogne, it's a brilliant region for families wanting to get out and visit all the attractions in the region. Lots of walking, lots of cycling, brilliant for nature lovers.
And what can we expect to see on the campsite then?
On the site, they've got, as with many of these French campsites, they've got a brilliant water park, 2 pools, 3 slides, water games, paddling pools for the little ones. Obviously, I know you like your food, same as me. They've got a restaurant that does the traditional camping fare, but they also do regional specialties. So the regional specialty for here is potatoes salades. So Sarlat as in Sarlat, the local town.
Yeah. Is that chips?
Basically, yeah. It's not quite chips. It's sliced potatoes, but they fry them up in goose fat with loads of garlic. Oh, I'm salivating already, right?
Yeah, give me a glass of Cabernet Franc to go with that.
Absolutely, yeah. You can get all that from the main building, which is 18th century watermill. so hence Mulan. That houses the bar and reception.
And is this one of these huge campsites then, with loads and loads of pitches?
No, not too big. 180 pitches, so 6 hectares. Everything's really modern. Their rental units that they've got on there are all really nice and up to date, and the pictures of campsite for the motorhomes and caravans are lovely and shaded, so it can get a little bit hotter down there.
Oh, you're not wrong.
So there's a good bit of shade to keep you cool.
Yeah. And when's this site open?
So it opens usually early May. 2025, I think it's opening about the 3rd, and it runs through till early September.
And how much is it to stay per night?
So it's about €30 per night. I think they told me the prices for this year were about £21 in the low season, equivalent of £21. And as usual, that's for a pitch. So that's 2 people, including your electricity.
So just tell us again, where are we?
It's Moulin de Pouliac, which is in Daglan in the Dordogne region.
I may go there myself. Anyway, thank you ever so much, Rob, for coming in. To find out more about all of Alan Rogers' campsites across Europe, head to mhmp.info/Alan Rogers.
It's the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
And it's brought to you with thatleisureshop.com and sponsored by Ripe. OK, let's talk tariffs.
Yeah.
They have been occupying the world for the last, 2 months.
Yeah, well, we waited deliberately a few weeks before recording this episode just to let some of the dust settle, because it's been a very changing landscape, hasn't it, over the last few weeks. And news travels fast. So by the time you hear this, it could have changed again. In fact, we're recording this 2 weeks before we release it. And yesterday, there was a big change to tariffs for China exporting into America. So that literally happened last night. So it's a changing landscape. So let's see. But we just wanted to kind of talk in general, don't we, about tariffs and what impact are they going to have on our little corner of the world. We see motorhome screen prices creeping up, and that's just not just inflation. We saw a global trade storm between the US and China. Does that have any effect for us wanting to buy a motorhome? So this episode, we're going to look at exactly that and what ripple effect could tariffs have for UK motorhome buyers.
So first of all, what is a tariff? It's an import duty. It is charged at the port of entry for anything that you are bringing in, usually in numbers when you're talking about components or motor vehicles.
Yeah.
The Trump tariff started off at 10% on everything, and then the UK just a few weeks back negotiated a sort of a free trade deal. It was in part, but that 10% baseline tariff that Trump introduced, where it was 0 before, is still in place for a lot of things. I'm not going to go into details, but that is what a tariff is. It's an import duty when the stuff comes into your country. So the US is basically saying for UK goods, for instance, that they're going to charge us 10% on the first 100,000 cars that get imported into the United States, and it could be Range Rovers or Aston Martins or Morgans, but that 100,000 figure is in there so because it's not a mass market figure. He still wants the option to charge 25% tariff on anything above 100,000 cars. So how does it affect us in the UK? Tariffs. Where do we get our motorhomes from then, Max?
Well, very few come from America. So most of our motorhomes in this country are made in Europe or here in the UK. There is a minority that import them from the US. So we know brands here like Winnebago. Airstream is another very popular caravan. And they come in small numbers into the UK.
And did you know that we have charged for years and years a 10% tariff on those?
We have, yeah. And then, of course, here we then charge VAT on them as well. But that's a UK-centric tax, which British citizens have to pay. 20% currently. Ludicrous. Don't start me on that. I hate VAT. But, yeah, we've been charging 10% tariff to us. That's what we pay when that product comes into the UK. But no tariffs when products come here from Europe, which is where 99% probably, I've just made that statistic up, but most of our motorhomes that come into the country that aren't made here come from Europe. Now, what's interesting is Erwin Hymer Group is now a 100% subsidiary of an American company called Thor. Thor Industries own Erwin Hymer, who, of course, own Bessica, Eldis, gosh, Bursner, Death Left, Sunlight, loads of brands that we see here in the UK, which get imported from their place of origin, which is they're made in Germany or Italy. They are not subject to a tariff because
the tariff is from where you're importing the goods from. Usually where it's manufactured. Now you could think, a lot of companies, I tell you what they'll do, they will export to a country which has zero tariffs for them and zero tariffs back into the UK, for instance, or the US, and then get it through like that, a roundabout route. That's not the way it works.
No.
It's usually the country of manufacture and where it's exported from. So as you say, it doesn't matter if it's owned by an American company. If it's manufactured and exported from Germany, that's the tariff you pay.
I think the challenge for the European manufacturers and British manufacturers, although I don't know any that do export, if they're exporting to the USA, that product is going to be subject to a tariff. Now, if that is no longer a competitive product in the US market, they'll stop doing that. So
the retailers and the agents will take the hit.
Do you think they will?
I think a proportion of it will be, yes.
I've been doing some research and I've been talking to a number of people in the USA, and I'm hoping to get some American voices on here, on this podcast in the future. We're having some great conversations at the moment just to try and get an understanding of what is going on in America, because I've always believed that what happens there happens here 5 years later, and they set the trend. And that's certainly been true, isn't it? But there is talk that dealers are already increasing screen prices, blaming the tariffs, and that was product they bought last year that they can't sell, and they're trying to put the price up now, justifying the tariffs as the reason.
Well, that's just sharp practice.
Of course it is. So that's what's happening in America right now in some dealerships. But it will be a challenge, I think, for European or any manufacturer that is going to be subject to a tariff. And if they stop exporting to the US, they'll need to look elsewhere, and that may put pressure on their price point because their margin's going to be squeezed. They're selling less. They want to cover their overhead, so that might mean that they put the price up. So does it mean then that European manufacturers who no longer export to the USA want to keep exporting to the UK, put the price up so they make the same net margin? That could be a reality of a tariff. What I find interesting, I've just been out to China, as you know. Did I tell you I went to China?
Yeah, you did. You went to China.
I went to China. It was amazing. And
missed his flight home, though.
There's a story as to why. Did I tell you why I missed my flight?
Yeah.
So
you know those people that you're behind, or you delays your flights because they've mislaid or their bags, or they haven't done this, or the bags have got to be uploaded and all the rest of it.
That's me. So you're not allowed to put a lithium battery in your suitcase. Right, I know this.
Everybody knows that.
Everyone knows that. Signs everywhere. We bought some new cameras in China, Sony cameras, and they were at a price point that was cheaper than they are in the UK secondhand. They contain a lithium battery. Didn't think about it. Shoved them in my suitcase. Got stopped. Left my hand luggage in the inspection area. Ran back to get it. Missed the flight. So yeah, another night in China, a new flight home with Air China. There we are. And these are the cameras you're seeing now, actually, and they're brilliant. So that was one good thing that came out of China, but they weren't quite as cheap as we thought because the flight home was 1,200 quid. Anyway, let's get on topic again.
Yeah.
So what's interesting going out to China is how keen they were at Canton Fair, which is where we went. I went out with my colleague Ben. When we said we were from England, they were royally keen to engage us in conversation because no tariffs. And they knew that at that point we were there, they were subject to 145% tariff. So the American market was dead, and we bumped into some Americans, and I said, hey, why are you here? What are you trying to do? And they were trying to get their Chinese manufacturers to move production to India and Taiwan and Vietnam, where they could bring it into the USA without a tariff.
Because it doesn't matter who owns the company or where the ownership is based, it's where it's made.
Where it's made. So they were trying to get the Chinese factories to outsource the manufacturer. And of course, China is no longer, in my view, the cheapest place on the planet to source product.
It's no longer the country of rickshaws, is it?
No, gosh, no.
And poor people begging in the streets. It's, they're way ahead of us in a lot of ways.
It was my first trip to China. I'd never been before, and what an education. I've never been anywhere like it. The progression there is off the charts. It's unbelievable. They are so well set up, and this is where China has a massive advantage on a global landscape, is their infrastructure and their ability to go from concept through design to production and manufacture at scale, and then shipping and getting it freight forwarded to its country of destination. They have a unique ability, so well equipped to do this, and that is where they will win the day. And they are innovating left, right and centre. The amount of electric cars over there, we've started to see the brand BYD, we call it over here, and over there it's Build Your Dream. And their HQ, we drove past a Build Your Dream building. It was massive. I mean, the cityscape is endless. I mean, it's such a busy population. But the electric cars are everywhere, and they are phenomenal. They drive past. I go, what is that? And they are aspirational-looking cars. Very cool. Food deliveries in autonomous little vehicles. No driver. Driving on main roads. I didn't see any accidents.
Robot cars,
yeah, delivering your food like a Deliveroo cyclist, but this is a little robot car that drives on the road, pulls up outside your house, rings you when it's there, or tells you on the app. You go outside, get your food out. Happy days. And autonomous cars everywhere. So driverless cars as taxis, they are everywhere in China. Yeah, and we see them as sci-fi here, don't we? We think, it'll never happen. They are absolutely happening.
We've been left behind, haven't we?
We have totally been left behind. Everyone rides an electric moped. Petrol motorbikes have gone in China. There are millions of them. I mean, they're like ants. They are everywhere. It's quite perilous walking on the pavements.
Now, the thing is, China being such a huge country, and of course having access to massive amounts of rare earth minerals used for making batteries, in particular lithium, they own, don't they, an end-to-end production for electric vehicles. So what happens when they make an electric motorhome?
I think it's coming. I think we're going to see it. They are so advanced with their car technology and the infrastructure as well that goes with having to charge an electric car. Even on the streets, all these little electric mopeds, there are extension leads everywhere. On every lamppost, every bit of street furniture has somewhere you can plug in and recharge your electric moped. And it seemed to me to be free. There are apps you can use to turn these little sockets on, but it was just everywhere and the norm. Now, I know it's a very different culture there.
It's not a free society.
It's not. It's a communist rule. So if you're told you have an electric moped, you have an electric moped. But they were loving it, and it was amazing. I mean, the air was clean. I mean, I expected to go and see loads of smog. And I asked some of the people we were with who were hosting our visit, is the air cleaner now? And they all agreed. And they said how much nicer it was to be outside because of all these electric cars. And there are still petrol and diesel cars there, for sure, and vans. But the growth in electric is amazing. It's incredible. And they're all discounted as well. So for Chinese folk, an electric car is a lot cheaper than a combustion car.
Let's get back to us then. What does it mean for new motorhome prices? As you've already said, if they're made in Europe, it's not going to make any difference. If they're made in America, we've always charged 10% tariff. So my guess is not much is going to be changing in the near future.
No, probably not. I think we're going to see more and more globalisation of parts. I think we're going to see parts coming from further afield. That could have knock-on effects, though, after sale in terms of warranty support. I think that could be a reality. I think the manufacturer that chooses to resource the after-sale experience with spare parts and availability of spare parts will absolutely win the day. This is a huge weakness in our industry. Drives me potty, and so many people complain having to wait months or even years for some spare parts. That's not necessarily the manufacturer's fault. It's where they got the part from. But what the manufacturer could do is keep a stock of parts, and there is an opportunity. We do our little bit here. So we are specialists at stocking Adria motorhome spare parts, for example. So there are parts that Adria don't stock in the UK, and they buy them from 2 or 3 or even 4 supply chains away, and we stock them here in the UK. And we're one of very few people, if not the only brand, that do that. And that's helpful if you're an owner that needs that particular spare part. So there's an opportunity for more of that. And manufacturers have an opportunity to win favour with the consumer by doing that. But globalisation is real, definitely.
And it's been going on for a long time, hasn't it? We have to ask the question, why are these supply lines so complicated? Why do all these little bits come from lots of different countries? And the answer to that simply is cost.
It is cost.
So with America, with your Harley Davidson or your what was the big silver caravan, Airstream,
yeah.
If Trump manages to bring back manufacturing to the US, it's going to be at US prices, not at Indian or Chinese prices. And the companies have gone to those countries because it's more cost effective. It's cheaper. So no matter what he does, if we import from America, it's never going to be cheap from America.
No, it's going to be more expensive.
Which is why you're saying we should be looking to the likes of China. And we've recently in this country, the UK, done a big deal, haven't we? A big trade deal with India, where huge amounts of electronics are made and assembled.
Yeah, and India is, in my experience, a cheaper place to buy product from than China. Where India's got a huge advantage over China is its population is a lot younger. It was amazing in China to see how few young people there were there, and the one child rule was abandoned some years ago, but Chinese culture is now not to marry and not have children, and they have an issue. We have a similar issue in the UK. Do you know this year there were more 65-year-old birthdays than there will be 25-year-old birthdays? We have an ageing population.
Having children is expensive, and if two people have one child, that's the population halved in 25 years.
Yeah, and well, in China it's less than that. So their population is shrinking as it gets older, and that creates all sorts of problems. India is a different scenario altogether. They have a very young population, which puts them in a massive position of strength. So I think we're going to be looking further afield for components, for supply. I think the economies are changing in China and in India. I think this sense that all these factories are full of children working, it's not true. We went there.
Well, sometimes it is.
Well, perhaps it is, but that is absolutely not the experience I saw at all. It couldn't be further from the truth. The factories we went to, and we wanted to see the families, meet the people that we intend to work with going forward here in the UK, and we were very, very warmly welcomed. The factories they're showrooms, and they're incredible.
And you had freedom of movement. You could just go anywhere.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to film in some of them, and I understand that. But they were like pharmaceutical operating theatres. Do you know what I mean? They were immaculately clean. The people were immaculately presented. A huge pride in their workplace, loads and loads of space, and an incredibly professional and adult workforce. None of the kind of idealism that we kind of, I think, is clickbaity here in the UK, that it's a sweatshop. Nothing like that at all. In fact, it couldn't have been further from the truth.
That you saw.
That we were shown.
That you saw. Because we do know that there are sweatshops in these countries, and also in places like China. It's not a democracy. It's not a free society. And we should always keep that in mind. So, are tariffs going to affect us? The answer, it would seem, Matt, is maybe not.
I think they will, and I think they certainly have the potential to. I think these tariffs are one to watch, and I think we should treat them with caution. I'm not a fan of tariffs. I think free trade is absolutely the way the world should go, and we need to behave like planet Earth as Earthlings. The sooner we can do that as humans, the better.
So, Matt, what should we be looking out for then?
I think we're going to see more and more evidence of Chinese brands in our marketplace. I don't think it's going to be long before we see a Chinese chassis brand on the front radiator grille. So we have Ford and Fiat, we're used to these European brands on the grills. I think Chinese marks are going to start appearing sooner than we expect. We've already seen them attempt it. You go to Caravan Salon in Dusseldorf, Europe's biggest motorhome campervan exhibition. It's massive. And the Chinese were there with a motorhome that people were going, wow, this is ingenious. And you search YouTube and you'll see the content. Their motorhomes don't look very Western. They certainly don't look very British. They're kind of missing the point of what we want. But they are incredibly innovative. And sure, we already see Chinese components in our motorhome, circuit boards and so on. And I mentioned globalization. We learnt, didn't we, in the pandemic, how many wiring looms were coming out of the Ukraine. when they suddenly couldn't, and when Russia invaded, suddenly VW production and Audi production stopped because they were getting so much of their electrical componentry from the Ukraine, and nobody really knew. And brands are going to spread their risk. That's a given. And increasingly, I think the landscape globally is changing, and I think big manufacturers will look to spread that risk and spread the source of where products are coming from. And I think Asia has a massive opportunity with the Western world right now.
And some people might say, well, if you want to know what's in it, just ask the dealer. But the dealer's not going to know, where the wiring loom came from, and where that switch was made, and where the transmission was manufactured.
But they could know.
Why would they know?
Well, why would they care?
I mean, you've got your car parked outside. Do you know where all the bits came from?
No, I think we just assume it comes from all over the world. And a dealer could find out, and it's a kind of nerdy thing I would do. I would be intrigued. I mean, I know that plastic windows, a lot of them come from Slovenia. Even motorhomes built in the UK. There's a brand of plastic window that's very popular on UK motorhomes, made in Slovenia. But it's a British-built motorhome. Really? It's a British-assembled motorhome for sure.
But that's because you need a specialised manufacturing process to make that plastic window, and they've cornered the market.
Yeah, and it's cost-effective to buy it in, and outsourcing. As I say, British manufacturers will be looking for the most cost-effective route to an end product.
Yeah.
That is essential. And actually, cost-effectiveness and quality, end build quality, could well be better sourced overseas. It was interesting at Fiamma recently. We were in Milan, and I was talking to Charles Pozzi, and there's an episode recently with Charles. He's the co-CEO of Fiamma, a brand we're all familiar with if you've got a motorhome or camper van. And it was interesting that I was surprised how much manufacturing they do in Italy. And for him, he said, it's actually cheaper for us to make it here than it is to outsource it and buy it in from China. And they were very proud of the fact that they were Italian manufacturers. That is something that here in the UK, can we do that? Can we compete with an Asian marketplace? Is it cheaper to buy in from Asia than make it here? Probably. No, I don't think we can.
No, and that's what Trump's trying to do. He says he wants to bring manufacturing back to the United States, but it's going to be more expensive to do, and it's all about cost, isn't it?
Yeah.
So as far as your part support is concerned, I suppose, if it's been made from all around the world, the question that you're going to ask is how long is it going to take for me to get something replaced? And you did touch on it by saying so it could be weeks, months, or in some cases a year. So that's not a great situation, is it?
Not at all. And that's where manufacturers have an opportunity, is to stock parts. And I think retailers, like us, independent retailers, there's an entrepreneurial opportunity for businesses to stock parts. We're going out to China as a retailer and as a wholesale business too. We have a wholesale business here too. And we're going out and sourcing direct from China. And I think on the current economic marketplace, that's the only way a retail business can thrive and survive. I think buying in from wholesalers in the traditional way, too many of them want to go direct to consumer, and I'm seeing more and more clever and innovative, forward-thinking retailers going out to China, going out to Asia, to Taiwan, to Vietnam, and sourcing the product and ensuring the quality is there, and also good ethics of where they're being made too. That's why we went, and I would have to say I was very, very impressed. You know that moment? You've just crossed into a new country and your phone loses signal, and suddenly you've got no internet, no maps, no campsite booking, nothing.
Yep. And the roaming charges, if you do reconnect, nightmare.
That's exactly why I use Saily. It's an eSIM app. No plastic, no faff. You just download it, pick a plan, and get data straight away across 190 countries.
So what's an eSIM then for anyone still on old school SIM cards?
Well, it's a digital SIM that you install once on your phone. No swapping anything out. It just works. Perfect for motorhomers crossing borders. I've used them loads when travelling, like when we went to Caravan Salon in Dusseldorf. It's dead easy.
And is it safer?
Yep, Saily includes web protection, so if you're using campsite Wi-Fi or public hotspots, your connection's secure.
OK, then how do people get it?
Just download Saily, that's Saily, in your app store, or go to saily.com/motorhome-mat. Use the code motorhome-mat at the checkout for 15% off your first purchase.
That's saily.com/motorhome-mat, and the link is also in the episode description. It's the Motorhome Mat podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
And is brought to you with That Leisure Shop and sponsored by Ripe. Time for our Q&A, our questions and answers, where you ask the questions and Motorhome Matt, he gives the answers, and if he doesn't know, he'll jolly well ask somebody who does. First of all, Kelly Eccles is in Aberdeenshire.
Hi Matt, it's Kelly from Aberdeenshire. New motorhomers here. We've just purchased a Bailey Adamo 694 2023. We're mainly going to use in campsites, but we do want the odd night where we'll go off-grid. Just want to check. We've got a leisure battery and then the gas on board. And my husband's gone and got one of those EcoFlex 2 portable batteries. With the bed operating, how long could we technically go off grid for? Is our power solution enough for one night? And P.S. he wants to take his coffee machine with him. Thank you very much. Really love the show. Learnt so much. Cheers. Bye.
There you go. Kelly wants to know how much power she's got in the battery and can she brew a coffee?
Thanks, Kelly. So Kelly's got one of these posh electric beds that drops down out of the ceiling, and they do use a lot of power, you're right. And I'm assuming you've got an EcoFlow Delta 2. That's the power pack your husband's bought. I would suggest you could go away for a week, even longer, without needing to worry about lithium batteries or portable power packs. The bed will draw a lot of power, but it's not going to kill the lead-acid battery in the van. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. You're only going to bring it down in the evening and take it up in the morning. So you're not going to use it a lot unless you're going to sleep a lot during the day. The coffee machine, I would run that from the portable power pack for sure. That's going to be invaluable because running that from your lead acid battery, that is going to flatten it very quickly if you run it via an inverter. And you could plug the motorhome into your power pack to recharge it, although be careful. I've talked about this before. Although that power pack is double earth, so it's double insulated, there isn't actually an earth going into the ground. So I'd be very careful of that. And you could also start the engine, and that will recharge your leisure battery if you find the bed is flattening the van. Why don't you drop the bed, raise it, drop it, raise it, drop it, raise it, and do that at home over the course of a day several times and monitor the battery, and then you'll have an idea. Because general living in it, all the lighting in that Bailey is LED, low power water pump, the heating is not going to use very much power. So just test it at home and try it. But your power pack is going to be a backup. As long as you don't let the battery that starts the engine go flat, you'll be fine.
Cheers, Kelly. Ian's in Hereford. Hi, Matt. Could you clarify the rules for travelling in Ireland? In a previous podcast with Darren, you said that visiting Ireland counts towards your 90 days in the EU. Did you say that? Having looked on the UK government website, I found this. You can visit and remain indefinitely in Ireland under the Common Travel Area rules. British nationals do not need a visa or residency permit to live, work or study in Ireland. Although Ireland is in the EU, it is not part of the Schengen area, and Schengen rules do not apply. Well, I think he's right. I don't recall you saying that.
If I did, I apologise. And if I did, I was wrong. Ireland is not in the Schengen. You can go there as long as you like.
And we have a common travel deal with Ireland, which the EU allows the Republic to do because of Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland.
Yeah.
And basically, you can come and go as you please for as long as you want.
Yeah, the 90-day rule does not apply to Ireland. So if I've said that in the past, I'm human. Sorry.
He's not human. Mick's in Barnstable. Hi, Matt. My motorhome is in storage outside of town. How can I stop flies trying to hibernate around the door and window rubbers?
Oh, I love this question. Every year this comes up. They are called cluster flies, and we had them on ours. I opened the door, and it was so, what's going on? Something's died in here. There are literally thousands of them, and they love the rubbers around the door where the door closes. And and they're just hibernating. They're not doing any harm at all. We live in quite a rural location, so we're surrounded by farmers' fields, and they're really popular in that kind of environment. In the city, less so. Out in the countryside, far more so. They're attracted to the heat that is held in the van. So if it's a plastic motorhome, the white of it is going to warm up. On the cab, that's going to get warm too. So they love the warmth and they love dark places. And so climbing into that rubber sill around your door is a favourite place for them. Just brush them away. Don't kill them. Just brush them away. They'll fly away and find someone else's motorhome to hibernate in. But they are not doing any harm. I've never known them do any harm. And I have Googled, can they do harm? They don't eat anything. They don't eat rubber. They don't chew paint. They don't eat wiring. They're not like mice. They're just looking for somewhere to stay. So just brush them away. You'll find some of them will be so asleep they are going to appear dead, and some of them will have died. You just have to hoover them up. But yeah, they're not doing any harm at all.
That's rubbery.
Robbery!
Okay, if people want to get in touch and ask a question, what should they do?
We'd love it if you did. If you're going to record it, please tell us where you are. Go to mhmp.info/Ask Matt. Click the orange button, record your question there, or you can fill in the form and we'll read it for you.
And if you're looking for trusted brands and services, then make sure that you visit the Motorhome Matt approved directory. It's at mhmp.info/approved.